being here. I would like to thank my opposition for being here and also my partner for being part of this debate. So let us begin. This House should act on Iran's nuclear program. I reserve the right to define this as a policy. Um, Subpoint E. The House UN Security Council should act by doing something. Our subpoint C. Security Council will agree to lift sanctions on Iran and allow 190,000 centrifuges to be centrifuges. Thank you very much. To be active in exchange. In exchange, we shall increase In exchange, they will increase transparency on their nuclear power programs. Net benefits. Is advantage one, ending the cycle. We are currently right now stuck on the sanction loop of giving sanctions to Iran, and then in retaliation to those sanctions, they start by increasing their military or keeping their nuclear power programs in much more advanced force. Section B. Iran has threatened to increase nuclear programs if we keep on increasing our sanctions. Our plan ends this cycle and it develops a form of trust between us.
Just to clarify, you've used the word "we" a couple times as far as lifting sanctions. Mm-hmm. Who are you referring to? Is it UN Security Council lifting sanctions, or like the U.S. lifting sanctions? Who's lifting sanctions?
The five members.
The five members of the council. Okay.
Okay. Subsection D. This will actually help us build our trust with Iran and in the West, and Iran in the West, and also help trust between Israel as well. And it would actually help us decrease any tensions that we have with Iran right now, decreasing their hate towards us. Our advantage too, yes.
Wait, this would decrease tension with who?
With us, the U.S.
And
Iran.
Iran? Okay, thank you.
Advantage two. It would actually help us stabilization within the region. Right now, Middle East is actually very messed up. Right now, ISIS, terror organization, right now is causing havoc. Also, Palestine and Israel are having some strong conflicts. We currently, right now, have Israel as our only ally over there. Subpoint C gives us another, actually, if this plan is in action, gives us another partner in Iran. Subpoint D, not only do we gain a partner, but we also gain stability. And will help us actually beat ISIS and any tension that we may have with Israel and with Palestine, help the relationship. And this is why
smash it on the ground if you want.
This
Doesn't matter.
phone, just throw it on the ground?
okay.
Doesn't matter. You can hand it back to me.
We started.
Oh, who cares?
What your time?
Are you done?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. Pretty much.
So what's your advantage? 3?
We didn't have
We
to.
didn't have one.
Just those 2? Okay, I wasn't sure.
This is why you should vote for.
No, this is why you should vote for our plan. Thank you very much.
Very good.
I'm so sorry.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, that was really good. That's the best I've seen you do so far.
Thanks.
Just for simplicity, go on case first.
Yeah.
So answer their stuff line by line, then go to your stuff.
Yes.
Cool.
Don't do that.
All
Do off case, then run a tricot, and then go back on.
I'm just gonna say bigger is better. Veronica's gonna oblige.
Motion of the ocean.
That's sad. Feel bad for you.
Actually, I hear a lot of guys say that too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's true though.
Alright, starting with their on case. Actually, I should say thank you to the judge, blah blah, blah, all that nice pleasantry stuff. So starting with their on case, the op says that we should act now. That they should allow centuries,
Centrifuges.
um, it was like, so that by these centrifuges that it will allow to increase transparency, and for their net benefits, advantage A, that this will end the cycle of them constantly threatening to build more if we add more of our own people to their country. It says this will form trust. This will not form trust because you can't force a country to follow our beliefs, and there will be resentment. By putting this pressure on them, it will cause Iran to be more resentful to us. The people will not appreciate it, and those are the people who are actually really peaceful. And their government will definitely not appreciate this, and they will. The government will definitely retaliate, and this will increase distrust between the countries. And their advantage too, it says it will settle civilization. Their civilization. That ISIS is a real problem right there, and we can agree upon that. And that Israel fighting with Iran. By them having these centrifusion and centuries or
Centrifuges.
okay. That this will help all these, but these are irrelevant and have no solvency because ISIS is still going to be there and growing. You can't, even if you get rid of the anthill, it's always going to keep going back. So there'll always be a problem with terrorists. And that Israel and Iran fighting, you can't make those two countries get along just by doing this. It's still going to cause a lot of distrust, and especially because Israel is our only ally there, Iran is not going to particularly like us. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, on our ending the cycle advantage, you said that the government would not like this and they would not increase trust. Can you give me a warrant to why they wouldn't like it?
Because, as you should know, that Iran already, Iran's government particularly already doesn't like the U.S. interference with their country. So now I'm going to go on to our disads. We are actually, so for the first disad is going to be Orientalism. So point A, this is a theory by Edward Stiles. He says that the Western culture belief is flawed about Eastern culture. And this comes from misleading medias like the movie Aladdin by Disney. It makes people think that they're just running around with swords and have magical lamps and flying carpets, and it's really stereotypical. And then also there's Fox News. Fox News makes Iran look really terrible. One of the ways they do it is by calling Iran actually Iran. By doing this, it's our own government and our media, even our presidents are calling it Iran. And as our opponents call them Iran. This is really offensive, just how like if your name is like mine, Cassie, and you call me Casey, it's really offensive. You're belittling me, and this is exactly what we're doing to other countries. This also makes people dislike us. because this is a way of being like, okay, Iran. It's kind of like how you would say to your little brother to piss them off. The impact is that the first impact is that this causes no solvency, misunderstanding of culture, and it's a misunderstanding of culture. And Iran will not want to work with us if we keep belittling them. It's bad for education because in our schools, this misinformation like Iran is bad. Iran. It makes that there. Iran is bad will only cause more mistrust from our own U.S. citizens to not wanting to be associated with Iran. And our alternative is more Wastia for us to actually go in and talk. What? So for our counterplan, we believe that the UN, instead of the U.S. government, should go into consultation, find consultation with Iran and discuss, instead of building a nuclear program, that they should actually build a helium-3 facility. Helium-3 is rare and really profitable, and so by building helium-3 facilities in Iran, this will help increase Iran's own economy, and this will cause their economy to boost, and it will also cause for happier government, happier people, and a better view of the U.S. government. It can help our own economy and debt it can help out the world economy and debt if everyone puts it together. Okay. For this by consultation, for the Waskia, it will take a place in Iran. Also, the helium-3 is non-radioactive, so it cannot be turned into a weapon. And it's 7 minutes. What's from there? 8. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, it's like a strategy. But just so you understand what it means when
Good job.
this is actually my spot, so hopefully I do know what I'm doing.
You don't know what you're doing. So yeah. I just want to thank everybody for coming for my first and final time up here, and let's get right into this debate. I'm going to go in the same order Cassie just did, so on, then off. First, on our advantage one, first I would just want to say they conceded everything, so I'm glad to hear that, so we can have a real debate. Now let's get into our advantage one, ending the cycle. The only response they really had to this was, we can't force them to follow our beliefs, or Iran isn't going to start trusting us, so we don't have access to any of our impacts because we don't get solvency. So first off, I think I just need to re-explain what this is. We're extending an olive branch with this advantage to Iran. We're ending the cycle of sanctions. What our plan does is we're going to allow them to keep doing what they're doing, and all we ask in return is increased monitoring of their facilities. Just let us know what's going on, but we're not going to take away any of their centrifuges, which you need to make nuclear power for your country. And we're actually we're conceding most of the points that Iran was asking for. So we're giving them a whole lot. We're also taking away every single one of our sanctions, which they asked for, and we're now giving to them because this olive branch will then increase trust. We're doing what they ask, so they're going to say, okay, they did a good thing. Maybe we can stop always threatening them with nuclear power. Yes.
And what sanctions are these?
Just like aid and trade sanctions that the 5 members of the UN Security Council have on Iran. It's a bunch of sanctions, mostly with like oil, gas, ability to get things for nuclear power. So that's all. So we'll end those sanctions that they asked for. And then they said, like, we're forcing our beliefs. No, we're not. They already have these nuclear centrifuges. So how are we supposed to be, like, we're just allowing them to keep what they have. We're giving them what they want. We're taking away sanctions. There's no way I think this plan will decrease trust in the United States government. Now, going to our advantage 2 of so just to sum that up, so now we get access to all of our increased trust, creating like a partner in the region. So now our advantage 2, stabilizing the region. They said this is irrelevant and no solvency, like terrorism will always happen. But what this point is trying to emphasize is that we don't have many partners in the region. So the West especially doesn't really have anyone they can rely on, like except for really Israel, which has its own problems. So by extending this olive branch and trying to build trust, we're allowing that. We're building a partner who can help us work to maybe deal with Syria, who can help deal with these countries that maybe be less inclined to help us. But by taking the first step and increasing trust, maybe we can work better with ISIS, or we can use Iranian soil to have drones or land pilots. So there's all these benefits that you can get to help end these conflicts in the Middle East. Then they said we can't stop the Israel-Palestine conflict, but one of the main reasons that Israel and Palestine are fighting is because Israel is always afraid of being attacked by these other countries. They're afraid of Egypt, of Iran, of Iraq, of Syria. So if we can build another partner, they have less to fear, and maybe they can be nicer with Hamas and deal with them. Maybe they will take away one of the fronts Israel has to fight so they can really deal with and increase safety of their own people. So if anything, this decreases tension. We're decreasing like all the pressure that's built up in this area over time, and it gives the West another country they can rely on to help fight these battles. Now let's get into, so again, we get access to all of our advantages of partners, helping stop ISIS, all that. So now let's go into the DA1 of Orientalism. First of all, they said we're stuffing our culture down their throats, that we believe they use like flying carpets and they're having swords because of the movie Aladdin. All we're talking about is letting them have access to their nuclear program. So we're not belittling them in any. I can't really see any way in which we're belittling Iran. We're not saying that they can't do something. We're giving them access to nuclear powers. We're treating them like an adult country that's responsible. We're extending trust like you do with countries, with allies. So we're not falling into this Orientalism trap, because we're conceding, we're treating them as equals, and we're not belittling them in any way. We're talking about centrifuges. We don't think they're running around with swords and magic carpets because we saw Aladdin once. Yes, Tom?
Does Iran want increased monitoring of their nuclear program?
They want decreased sanctions, and they want to keep all their centrifuges. So I think it's a fair trade that's not belittling in any way to give to have increased transparency in that program. So again, they don't get access to any of their no solvency or anything like that because they're not going to see this as being belittled, because we're essentially agreeing to all the terms that they laid out in their first thing. So now I'm going to talk about their counter plan, which is the UN consults with Iran to get them to build a helium-3. My first response is going to be PERM, because we can do this. There's no reason why you can't do both plans. You can agree to this nuclear term and then get them to try and build a helium-3 project. And I'm going to say the net benefits of my PERM are even greater, because instead of doing this alone and like having Iran think, oh, they just want us to build this helium-3 that's never going to work because they just want us to stop focusing on nuclear energy. They're going to see the trust that we built by letting them keep their nuclear program, so they're going to be more likely to develop this helium-3. They're going to be more likely to agree to it. So we're going to perm the plan. And then my DA of, I'm going to run a DA against just doing this by yourself. By doing this, I'm going to run their Orientalism DA back at them, because now you're saying that you're not good enough. They're telling Iran that they're not good enough for nuclear power, or they can't be trusted with nuclear power. So we're going to give you this other form of energy. You know, we're going to put training wheels on you in a sense and make sure that you that you have to get this helium-3. But if you permit instead, you don't fall into that trap, because they do have nuclear, because we allow them to keep their nuclear program, and we don't belittle them by saying they're not good enough to have both, or that they shouldn't. And then they can realize that helium-3 is a good thing. So there's no competition with their counter plan. So again, I urge you to vote for the government team. Thank you. But yeah.
Off, on, off. I'm going to answer the perm, go on case, then I'm back to the off case. Once again, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you to your opponents, judge, my partner. My first response to the perm is they cannot perm this plan because this is binding arbitration. They've already in their plan they want to do something that is not about arbitration. It's not about meetings. It's not about anything. So they can't suddenly perm it. We said that there would be binding arbitration as to the helium-3 and to getting rid of the centrifuges. You can't both get rid of centrifuges, keep centrifuges, and rely on the binding arbitration. We don't know the results of the binding arbitration. That's the one thing. So you can't perm, because you could potentially have a conflict here. So you cannot perm this plan. So the plan in and of itself stands on its own. It's mutually exclusive because the results of this arbitration are binding. Now, we will go on to the on case first. As to their advantage number one, ending the cycle. They talked about sanctions going back and forth and that ending these sanctions. My first response to this is everything they have bites into our first DA of Orientalism. It is, we are making decisions for Iran. In a point of information, I asked if Iran wanted sanctions, if they wanted increased monitoring. He said, well, I feel like that's a fair trade-off. No one asked Iran if this was a fair trade-off, so this automatically bites into our first advantage of Orientalism. Yes, sir.
Do we force Iran to make these sort of agreements in our plan?
In your plan, you absolutely do, because you said the trade-off for not having sanctions, which you weren't even sure what the sanctions were, which also bites into Orientalism. Now, you just assume we know what these sanctions are. But you say that the trade-off is that Iran would give us increased monitoring of their nuclear program. I asked, does Iran want this? You said no, they don't. So now we're forcing them to do something that they don't necessarily want. I think most people would agree they don't want increased monitoring. So that's my response to that. My response to advantage number two, as far as stabilization. Anytime you put anyone in competition with Israel by giving us another player, that's going to affect the politics at home. Israel is well supported in the U.S. If you say we're going to have another supporter, another ally in Iran, I don't feel that's going to make Israel happy. When Israel's not happy, you find tension at home with the U.S. government. You're going to have tension with Israel. On top of that, I would say the likelihood, the probability versus magnitude of Iran becoming a player with the U.S. is extremely unlikely. Issues with Iran date back prior to any of us. We can look at the Shah of Iran. We can look at the Ayatollah Khomeini. We can look at the hostages being taken. We can look at Reagan having to come in and save hostages that Carter couldn't get released. This dates back to the early 70s. I don't think suddenly now you're easing sanctions is going to change that. All that's going to change is, Iran's going to be like, oh, wow, there's no sanctions. Eventually that cycle is going to come back. How do we know the cycles eventually come back? It always has. So, moving on to DA number 1, Orientalism. Let me quote the member of government. We are giving them access. We are letting them. We are extending trust. His answer simply implied that they do not understand Orientalism. When you constantly have to bring up the word what we are doing for Iran, you obviously don't take Iran into consideration. It's all about we. Whether that we is the U.S., whether that we is the UN Security Council, it's still there. This again bites in, obviously, to our DAs. And I would also point out to the judge that if you look at, I believe it's under the impacts of WASTA. WASTA was never touched upon in this debate. You can flow WASTA all the way across. By not answering to WASTA, it once again bites into the DA of Orientalism that they don't understand the issue. Now, in 2004, 2005, General Petraeus spent time in the Middle East. And General Petraeus went in and he used the concept of WASTA to get the support and to help rally Middle Eastern in Iraq and in that area because it got them to understand. Now, understanding WASTA is to understand that you go to the people and try to see what the people want. You consult with the people first before you have any action. By consulting, by working with them, they feel like they're a part of the process. They don't feel like this is strictly a Western process or a UN process. This actually, the concept and the impact of WASTA, the impact of letting the people of Iran, letting the government of Iran feel like they are valuable members of the society, the impact of that outweighs anything else that you have on your flow sheet right now. Yes, sir.
I have 2 questions. So,
I'll
how
try to get to them.
how would you have preferred me to phrase grammatically a plan where the 5 United Nations take away sanctions? How should I not have said, we are going to take away sanctions? And then also my second question is, how is conceding what the Iranian government has been asking for in violation with WASTA?
Your plan is to increase monitoring of these plans. Iranian government has not asked for that. They have not asked to have more transparency in their program. So that's definitely not what Iran asked for. How would I refer to we as far as the sanctions going? The fact that we have sanctions against Iran once again shows that we don't understand what their needs, that we feel so imposed to put, I can't take you anymore, that we feel so imposed to put sanctions on Iran. Iran did not ask for sanctions. Iran did not ask for the West to get involved in their country. Iran didn't say, let's punish us now, punish the people. When you punish the government, you ultimately punish the people. When you punish the people of the government, you now build a greater history of distrust for everybody out there. Now, so on to the counter plan. Our counter plan bites in, works with our DA1. Our counter plan actually is going to increase trust. It's going to increase relations between Iran and what the people of Iran feel. If the people of Iran see that they are being asked for what they want. Now, this does not 100% guarantee that the binding arbitration gives Iran everything they want. When you have arbitration, when you have mediation, it's important to feel like you have a voice at the table. This is not about, whatever Iran wants, Iran gets. We have binding arbitration. But they must be given a voice. They must be given a voice to voice what they want. Now, where that leads, who knows? I would like to hope that it leads to a greater understanding. But again, when Iran feels like they have a voice, the people feel like they have a voice. When adults feel like they have a voice, they're going to lend that down to their children. What we're going to see is an intergenerational gap increase. And then when that increases, you're going to see more likelihood of trust for the next upcoming generation. So then in the future, our plan actually will increase relations. for these reasons, for the counter plan, and for the fact that they don't understand Orientalism and Watson, how it bites into their plan, I urge you to vote a negative ballot. Thank you.
Yeah, just read and say the thing.
Not used to this, huh?
Nope.
You devil.
So what we said is that
Everything is in a block. It should be all offensive on the offense.
I have like, yeah.
Don't confuse yourself. You should have your arms of voters already written out. Go with the voters.
like definitely.
Oh. Sorry for my last speech up here. I'd like to thank the judge and my opponent for this fun debate, or opponents who are on the listening member. And I'm just going to go over our voters. For our first voter / impact is that why you should vote for us is one, that our opponents don't really have solvency because their misunderstanding of the culture of why Iran will not want to work with us because they already have a bad history with us and they're not likely to want to just have more security on their nuclear fusions. So their plan has no real good outcomes. Also, they never, for voter number 2, they never really touched on how about the education of how there's a misunderstanding between the Eastern and Western cultures, so you just flow that across. And as my partner said for voter number 3 is that they never really talked about WASTA, about how. And then for 4 is that our counterplan does have solvency because we're not having the U.S. give them this plan. It's the UN, and Iran already has their own people in the UN, and so they're more willing to listen. So there's better outcome of them doing our plan. Our plan doesn't, for voter number 4, the point A is that our plan doesn't belittle Iran. We're giving them the same amount of respect we would our allies, which allows for better communication and there's no real hostileness. This creates trust because the UN will definitely not force their beliefs. They are actually going to go to Iran and ask for their opinions, which is what we're originally looking for in the beginning. And as my partner said, if the U.S. was to try to create a partnership with Iran, it can cause Israel not wanting to. It will cause stress for Israel because they are feeling that we're going to support them less to help their enemies, which can cause Israel to stop being our ally, which, as our opponent said, they are our real only ally there. And if we lose them, and we're obviously not going to get Iran, what do we have left? So you should vote for the op because we are not being as aggressive as the AF, and that ours has more solvency. And thank you very much.
Also, you don't have to touch it after.
How long is her first speech?
accidentally
Five.
touched
Five.
it with
And she's the last
Yeah,
speaker?
so
Mhm.
that's what actually messed it up. Sorry.
It's fine.
No.
Unless if you don't, like, if you're way under time, it doesn't matter. The timer then doesn't matter because you don't need it.
If you go at 5 minutes and then it's valid.
If I go over 5 minutes,
Oh,
is
are
that
we
bad?
jumping up then?
No, I mean, I'm just saying if you only use 2 minutes, you don't need the timer to like sit back. Or right?
No, actually, I stopped it and I didn't know how much time I actually
Oh.
had left, so that's what actually threw me off.
Okay.
Damn it.
It's fine.
Well, hello. Thank you very much, everybody. We've heard opposition. I would just like to reiterate that our plan is better because well, one, we actually, in our advantages that we previously have stated, we're stabilizing a region. We are actually, advantage one, sorry, we are actually ending the cycle. We're giving them like a ton of free space for them to choose. Our advantage two, we treat them as our opposition says, we treat them as adults, not as children. They actually kind of didn't really respond as to how exactly we treat them as children. Just give like an Aladdin movie. We're helping advantage two, establishing a region. We all know the conflicts that are going on right now. We're helping them. We're not actually trying to ruin them or to belittle them or just go in because we see the need to just put ourselves in that type of situation. Our plan is a lot better because our counter op says that United Nations consult with Iran to get helium-3. Well, our plan, we can permit because we can actually give them both. They say, oh, you can't do that. Well, here's the thing. There haven't been no rules yet. Meaning, how would that actually create competition within these regions? I mean, I kind of figured if you had rules that would make you want to break them all and just see, I can be the better dog. But given there are actually no rules, it helps. Because they actually don't know the results of arbitration. Since they do not know the results, we can do both. And I don't know how much time we have left.
Just keep going. You're way under.
2 minutes in.
Okay. So that's why I think our plan is better. I want to restate that the United Nations Security Council, the 5 of us, we will do something by giving them first what they want. What they want is no sanctions. I believe that actually can help us build trust with them because when you build trust with someone, you kind of have to let down those guards that you build up between them so that you can improve each other.
3 minutes in. I know that feeling.
I'm sorry, that's all I got.
I like this one.
Since you're like